it's all falling apart. It's all falling apart. And it's insanity because I'm so close to having everything wonderful and it just all collapsed in on me. Welcome back to Factorio, where my plans have gone awry. All right, let's start with step one, okay? I built a monolithically good train station, right? It was so cool. And immediately it's useless. Immediately it is not the way the game works, which I understand. This is a lesson learned, right? Like next time I'd ever play Factorio, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, you wouldn't build that. And now I kind of see when I build these things and I'm like talking through these grand ideas, everyone's like, well, what was the problem with the train station? I did say that everything in my main base was drying up. And I actually had a really successful morning. I managed to get all the gas sorted, all the things sorted, and had my blue signs, and I reconfigured my laboratories into a great place. I got them all fed up really nice. I cleaned up tons of old belt that were just so stupidly placed, fixed all that up, and then had my science just whizzing through. Like, to the point where I already have the next science I need to make. Like, that's done. It's like, hey, good, you did that. There's another one. And so I barely got that finished before the game was already like, well, you need to move to the next level now, which I haven't done yet. That will be my next plan, kind of, I think, based on... No, we're going to war. We are absolutely going to war, because as I did that and I got everything working again, I was like, okay, what's my next plan here? I've got flamethrowers, I've got gunner turrets, I can make laser turrets now. I could do all this kind of cool stuff, right? So what do I want to do next? And then it became very apparent all my resources in the original base, especially iron, are drying up. They're like running out completely. So I was like, well, I've got an iron node up near the Thunderdome, which is where all our coal comes from. So I was like, I could get the iron from there. I could totally do that. And that wouldn't take too long. So I've already got experience in setting up these like external mining bases. I've got a train track that runs near it. No problem, right? So I mooch on up there and I start work on building our auxiliary iron mine. And then things start to click. And that's Factorio. Things start to click. And I was like, wait a minute. How am I going to get this iron? How's this going to work? I was like, I can't use the train that's taking the coal because the coal train is full to keep everything running. So I can't do that. So I'm going to need another train that goes along here. And then it's like clicks again. It's like, wait a minute. How do I get this iron into the base? Because ideally I would have this running on the same line that my coal runs on. But that's just not how this game works, right? In reality, in the real world, trains don't just have a station dedicated to one thing. That's not... It offloads and then it's distributed where it needs to go. And I am sure there is some way with advanced filtering and arm filters where I could have that process happening out of a singular station. Yeah, it's very apparent that is just woefully inefficient considering the pace that these trains move around. And it dawned on me, it's like, I can't have train stations that are to feed from various areas of the map. That's not going to work. What I in fact need is a train station for every individual raw resource this game has on offer. And all the train stations I've built right now are pointless. They're not pointless, but they need to be massively repurposed. And it becomes even more awkward if you're trying to... I totally get now why a lot of people, when I've been designing my trains, I like train loops. I think it looks more fun if they go in a big loop and they like cycle round and things like that. It's not all about efficiency. I've said that before. The efficiency angle I get for people who like it to be like perfectly efficient and have all the ratios exact of like perfect amount of resources goes into the system to get this perfect amount of resources at the end. I get the appeal of that. It's not what I want. I like a bit of a chaotic sprawl of just things looking a bit more interesting to me. But I totally get now why people are like, well, the easiest way to do trains actually is just one line and it just goes backwards and forwards. Like, that's it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I don't want to do that. But it totally makes sense to me now. So I then had this issue, which was I needed to repurpose my current train stations with their planned routes, because I had planned the rail to go like north, south, east, and west. So this would feed in from the east, this one would feed up from the south, and so on and so forth. But that's not going to happen now, because now the trains are going to be entirely focused on an individual resource. I'm going to have to build... I've got a coal one, I'm going to need an iron one, I'm going to need a copper one, I'm going to need a stone one, I'm going to need a uranium one, which I've unlocked uranium mining, I don't know where that comes from, I'm going to need an oil one, etc., etc. And then they need to be efficient enough, right? We're not disposing of all efficiency, to feed nicely into the base so they could be distributed appropriately to the resources that need them. And I was like, okay, I kind of get what we need to do here. Once again, it just meant my train lines were backwards. Train cannot find a path to the destination. Oh my god. The train station's backwards. So, I'm like, right, I have to redo all this stuff. And I start configuring things. And that's when the nightmare happened, is that... I guess my pollution cloud has got to the point where it's now aggravating a lot of the bugs, and I was under constant attack. I'm talking like every 30 seconds. They had found a way into the base and were just eradicating all my buildings. While I'm trying to sort things out, I've also hit the point, which I know has been frustration for a lot of people, and I fixed it now, where I was being delayed by crafting belt. Like, at the time, like, in the game, crafting, like, yellow belt is so fast, just while you're running around and sorting things out, that you can kind of just do it passively while you're running around. But red belt, which I'm kind of up to now, that requires so many resources that you need that factory production. So I had to set that up in order to configure the other mining nodes and everything else. I was like, I need to get this sorted. But while I was doing that, my base was just getting ravaged. Absolutely ravaged. I had to keep running back or I was going to lose everything. And I tried to set up a laser turret there, which turned out to not be anywhere near enough firepower. But I haven't got any ammunition over there. And I was back. It was horrible. I can't tell you how stressed out I was. I was literally so angry and frustrated. And at the same time, I know this isn't relevant to the game particularly, but... people got very obsessed that a long time ago, like, I don't know, 30 hours ago, when I was setting initial stuff up, I had used a wooden crate, which has since had upgrades, like steel crates and things. And they became obsessed with it. And I had a relentless onslaught of attacks from the audience about this wooden crate that was so far down the totem pole of priorities that needed dealing while my base was being destroyed. I was tear-arsing back to the old base to try and get red belt under construction so I could actually feed into defenses in some goddamn way while trying to get wall just to provide some buffer against their constant attacks. A wooden crate. That poor wooden crate. The savior of mankind is the wooden crate. The wooden crate provides the holy wood. It was incessant. Incessant. The last 2 hours I played was some of the most frustrating, stressful gaming I've done since, like, Alatreon. It was insanity. And I couldn't get anywhere. And every time I slightly made it a bit of progress, something else would happen. They would relocate and start attacking some other base. As I came to where I'm up to now, which is to move on to purple science, I think, I have one mission. And that mission is eradication. That's what needs to happen. I need to eradicate all living life on this planet. As my waters near my base have turned a toxic sludge green, I'm actually a little concerned. I don't know how this mechanic works, but if the water becomes too polluted, is it no longer considered water? That might be a thing, because it is definitely very green, and it needs water to pump, you know, to work a lot of the things like the boilers and the chemical plants and things like that. So I'm kind of wondering whether this will eventually just become a sludge and it's like, it's no longer even water. So it doesn't work for anything you're trying to do. So I guess in some way I probably have to reduce my carbon footprint. I have to reduce pollution. I'm not sure how I do that yet. Power sources, I could do solar. The only solution I've seen is solar. I don't want to do solar right now. But, I mean, if I have to, because none of my stuff will work anymore because it's no longer water, maybe I have to do that, or maybe I can move to a less polluting I mean, nuclear would be the plan. We've got uranium coming, so can we move to nuclear? That would probably be the plan. If I can make it that long to get there. But I have set up my iron train. That's done. The problem is now I'm under relentless constant assault, and I think it's time that I take the fight to them. I did build some, like, modular armor for my character where I now have, like, an equipment slot. I'm not sure what I do with that. I'm going to have to mess around. I have seen things like personal batteries, so I think I can give myself, like, shields and things like that. But I think I want to upgrade to, like, a flamethrower. I'm still using, like, a machine gun, which has been very effective, honestly. It's been totally fine. But I am noticing now there are some very large bug corpses near my base where my turrets have been defending me. And more regularly now, I'm getting warnings that the bugs are kind of getting through to attack various things. They're not killing anything, like on my actual defensive wall from the past, but they are damaging things. So I suspect the bugs are getting much more powerful, and I'm going to have to deal with that in some way. But right now, tomorrow, all I'm going to say to you is, it's scorched earth, baby. It is scorched earth. I am going out there. I am arming to the teeth, grenades, the whole business. I am just going to burn the world. And then I'm going to once again reinforce my infrastructure. But I can't keep expanding my turret wall. So I think what I need to do, and I've tried to set this up, I think I've almost got it, is mini bases that are like pretty enclosed besides the train track that are just defensive pockets. And the actual base itself I can keep a similar size, because as I mine out resources, I get more and more room to construct factories and things. So I think that's what I need to do. I need to have this central core, which is just fed by train lines. That's my vision. I don't know where we'll get. We'll see. All right. So check it tomorrow and we'll find out. Bye, guys.